Well, welcome to Black Men Speak, the best podcast that highlights ordinary Black men doing extraordinary things. I am your host, Keith Dent. So let's start with a question that most of us have felt but rarely say out loud. Why does it feel like as Black men we have to be twice as polished just to be considered half as qualified? Not twice as talented, not twice as prepared, twice as polished. From the way we dress to how we speak, to how firm our handshake is, to whether our confidence is interpreted as competence or as a threat. We learn early that excellence isn't optional, it's expected. But even excellence sometimes isn't enough because in many rooms, perception walks in before we do. And here's the tension. Is polish power or is polish performance? Are we mastering the rules of engagement or are we being forced to play a game that was never designed with us in mind? In the Manners Playbook by James B Wingo, he argues that manners are more than etiquette. They're a leadership tool, a competitive advantage, a way to command before you ever open your mouth. But for Black men, the conversation hits differently because when we talk about presentation, we're also talking about survival. When we talk about professionalism, we also talk about stereotypes. And when we're talking about respectability, we also talk about excess. Some will say just be yourself, or others will say just play the game. But what if the real strategy is understanding the rules so well that you can decide when to follow them and when to redefine them? So in today's episode, it isn't about telling Black men to shrink. It is not about performing for approval. It's about ownership. Owning your presence, owning your reputation, owning your preparation. And so ownership in how you move in rooms that weren't necessarily built with you in mind. Because polish, when chosen, not force, becomes power. So today we're going to ask the question, do Black men have to be twice as polished? Or is mastering presentation simply part of playing to win? So let's talk about it. I'm going to welcome in James B Wingo. James, welcome to the show.
Greetings. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. It's a great day.
Yeah, awesome. So we're going to first kick off. How I wanted to do this show was based on a TikTok that I saw. So I'm going to play the clip for about a minute or so, and then we're going to talk about it.
There's one thing that I do have to talk about. I don't know what it is with us, and I hope you understand what I mean when I say us. I don't know what it is with us. Like, we feel like we have to bring this like street energy everywhere we go. Like, why am I sitting down with my wife at Ruth Chris, cutting into this nice ribeye, and I see dudes walking by with their pants sagging, with their jeans sagging, with these bubble coats with their hoods on? Like, yo, we gotta stop. Like, we gotta stop. And I know, listen, some of y'all are gonna be like, oh, you was just thanking God for this, now you judging. Listen, I'm not judging them, and I'm not trying to be cynical, but we have to, like, yo, we gotta understand, like, yo, there's a time and place for every. First of all, like, we have to understand that how the world reads us is a reality. Like, yo, the way you present yourself is how the world reads you. We already are fighting an uphill battle at times. And I understand there's a lot of systematic things, but like, why are you like, we got to do better.
Okay. Yeah. Let's stop there. Let's stop there. So first of all, what did you think of his I guess if you want to say complaint? He said he wasn't judging, but he said, he basically ended how the world reads us is just highly important.
Right. Well, I can look at that in several ways. First of all, I don't know, maybe it's because of experience. You know, I'm at the point, if I go to a place and this is where I want to be, that's where I want to be, and the crowd, the customers. I have to expect that because I chose the place. That's number one.
Right.
Second, it reminds me back when I was younger, when I would catch a lot of flack from older adults forcing me to behave a way where they wouldn't be embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
It was like they didn't want to be seen as I'm uncouth, so therefore they are uncouth, and that's a mark against our race, you know?
Right. Okay.
At the time, I was feeling comfortable with how I was.
How you were, right.
Right. I can remember coming back from college. I came back in a denim jacket, wooden beads, and a 2-inch afro. And I was tagged as a revolutionary that was going to burn down the city, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, when you go away to school, you're no longer under your parents' thumb. So, you're gonna move the way the crowd moves.
You're going to move the way the crowd moves. And whether you want to call it a movement, cultural movement, it was a fad. So these bubble coats, the drooping of the pants, it's a fad of our youth culture, and we can't beat them and say, that's being judgmental. We don't know what they're doing, where they are, and how it is,
Yeah, and I found it interesting. So the guy in the clip was rather young.
Right.
He was rather young.
Trying to go to a place.
Right. Before he had mentioned they had really never been because they couldn't afford it at the time. But now he was at the place where he could go. And then when he was there, now he was upset.
Right. Because they didn't follow protocol the way he did. I went to a Black restaurant in Houston for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And I wasn't able to come home with family, so I went by myself. And I Googled to find a restaurant, and I looked for a Black restaurant.
Okay.
So on the website, it said fine dining, so forth and so forth. And we request a jacket and slacks and, dress to impress. So I said, okay, I can do that. Even though it's in Houston, it's kind of warm. And I was looking to wear, just shirt and slacks and be kind of cool.
Right.
So I did that. And I get to the restaurant, reservation for one, excuse me. And then I notice there's a table of 6, a white family, and they're in jeans and t-shirt.
Wow.
And I'm going, what? So I asked the maitre d', I said, I thought you had to wear a jacket and coat, And he said, well, you know how it is. Young people, they're kind of different, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, okay. But that was the restaurant's choice, and that was their choice. I didn't feel uncomfortable, even though there were some white patrons in a Black restaurant. I was happy for them. So I don't know whether they didn't want to turn them away for the business and, hold up to their dress code, but it was a different kind. I wasn't going to get upset, because I was happy to be by myself, having a dinner, not happy to be by myself.
Right.
That I could come out, and still have a nice dinner and didn't have to cook,
Right. I hear you.
Yeah.
So let's kind of turn to your book. It's called The Manners Playbook.
Mm-hmm.
And so your book kind of it talks about manners, but it's really about identity and dignity. So why is etiquette also kind of connected with self-worth?
Okay, well, etiquette is really rules to live by, and manners is the way that we treat our neighbors, our community, our loved ones, and our friends. All right. So depending upon where you go, the rules will change. So etiquette in the South could be, you come into my home, we're going to offer you food, sit you at the table. You may enter a home in the North, they're going to offer you a drink, have a seat and talk. So does it mean that they were not as hospitable as the other? No, it's the culture and where we live. but it's those etiquette, but we need to have the same manners, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in any culture and for any type of rule that we live in.
But and our manners are basically, I guess, I would say self-taught, but they're passed down for the most part from our parents.
Yes.
And so it doesn't seem, and I don't know, we could debate that. It doesn't seem as though we have, but we have a lot of rules that we pass down. It's probably maybe 5 to 10 rules that we may pass down.
Right.
And definitely, since we kind of talked about dress here in this instance, that's not necessarily a passed down thing.
Right.
So should we do more to pass down rules, or what do you think about that?
Well, I think that's where it's been lost. We've lost some of the foundation of just basic manners, how to treat people. The reason I wrote the book is that I have my own consulting business, and I'm doing workshops in schools. And here I have workshops set up on dealing with racism, how to further your education in college, what is a legacy, what is a man all about. And I have young brothers that will push me aside to walk into the classroom. I give them rewards for completing certain tasks, and they take the reward and go sit down without saying thank you. So they didn't even have the basics, and here I am trying to teach them higher level thinking, action, but they don't have the basics. It will be very difficult for them to succeed because they may have that knowledge, but a lot of times you're not the only person that is qualified for a particular job. It's how you interact with your team members, the customer, and can you navigate in a human and humble way? Those are the ones that ends up succeeding.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So it made me rethink. I need to put more emphasis back to basics, back to the foundation. And I found a lot of young people felt that having manners showed that you were soft and you weren't as aggressive or retaliatory in certain situations. But we can't use the hammer to fix everything. It won't work.
Gotcha.
You
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You need different tools. And I was trying to emphasize that manners is the key of getting through. It's not about you being soft. Not at all.
Okay. So since you did have a consulting business, and I'm sure you've dealt not only with on the student side, but also, maybe the colleges and the professionals. So how did the stereotypes about Black young men influence how they were perceived? And how can intentional self-presentation challenge those narratives?
Okay, well, at first it starts with me, how I present myself, how prepared I am, how I'm dressed, how I speak, and how I say that I'm going to work with their students,
Okay.
So it starts from there, and it starts from the moment they walk into my classroom. How am I going to show them respect and what I'm expecting of them? Sometimes they want to barge straight through the door. I say, nope, back it up. We're coming in one at a time. I'm going to shake your hand. I'm going to say, how are you? It slows down the process, and they begin to realize, okay, he's coming at us at a different perspective. And it tends to make them think a little bit, They get hyper. I don't get hyper. I'm not going to yell. If I have to yell, we have to reconsider whether you're coming back in the classroom or not, because I didn't come here to yell. And I'm going to treat you with as much as respect that I can, because I do have to hold my tongue sometimes too, because it can be challenging, So it starts from there that they need these basic tools first, and that they can't get by with just the brain power thinking that they know it all, but yet and still they don't know how to shake a hand. They don't know how to give a correct answer or say thank you. You know,
Mm-hmm. What age are we talking when you started your program?
started as early as fifth grade.
Fifth grade. Oh,
Right.
wow. Okay.
Even though I prefer at least seventh and eighth, but some of the schools want me to start earlier so that those young men don't leave too quickly and they can stay in the program. You know, so I'm looking to do sixth, seventh, and eighth, so they'll get 3 years of me as opposed to just going in and just doing straight eighth graders. You know, but I did work with ninth grade classes also.
Okay. And so when you initially saw them right from the first day, I guess before they even got into the door, what percentage would you say they didn't know to shake your hand or even say hello, that kind of thing?
I'll say let's say out of 20 guys, 17 would want to walk by me.
Wow.
Just thinking I'm just somebody in the room. Let me go take a seat. Steadily talking while they're walking in, not paying attention. Or I say good afternoon, they just nod their head and keep on going. Or yo, what's up, dude? You know? So
Yeah.
a lot of that is culture from the street per se, but not knowing where you're at, you know? And it's okay to have the slang, but there's a time and place for everything because you have to learn that as you start getting older. And you can't wait till somebody's in the 12th grade to teach them that or after they graduate from college.
Mm-hmm. Right. And your book also kind of emphasizes confidence. So how can young men develop confidence without crossing into ego or performance?
Okay, well, confidence comes from a consistent practice and doing. That's the only way you can get confidence, by doing it repeatedly over and over again. So the mere fact that I'm shaking their hand every day as much as I can, saying good afternoon, starting the class out, how is everyone today? Are we feeling good today? Sometimes somebody isn't, and they want to share that.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be part of the classroom that I'm dealing with, the session, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And get those little things out the way. That makes them more comfortable that I'm going to listen to them and that they're going to be heard. And hopefully they'll use that when they start communicating with their neighbor or their other classmates. And I try to, push that on them also. So modeling, giving them confidence that it's okay to make a mistake, but this is the place that we try to work out all the kinks.
And how long is your program?
Most of the program is usually at least 10 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I can do a 3-week or a 10-week, and that's meeting just one period a day per day for 10 weeks. So 10 sessions.
Okay.
And I use the book as a guide for me. And just to let them know where Manners all started. And they think it started in a white country. They will say it started in England, it started in France, but Manners started in Egypt, by the Pharaoh ICC, who instructed his son, who was the advisor, which is like a chief of staff or prime minister, let's say. And he was instructed to write instructions for young boys. So
okay.
I tell them that if Manners started there, where did you get this nonsense that this is a white thing? This started from kings and queens. And the first rule was boys need to be quiet. And that's so that they can learn. Someone that has experience. So once they hear that, they get a little bit comfortable, like, okay, so Manners really started from us, because we're really a nurturing people. by nature. We're very forgiving. No matter how bad the situation is, we're very forgiving people.
Right.
you know
Because that's fascinating, because they thought manners were a white thing. So not
Right.
having manners is a black thing. Is
Right.
that what they thought?
Well, it's being opposed to that. I'm not going to be white. It's just like,
Oh, okay.
I've been told I talk white. I'm going like, where'd you get that from? I talk white. Just because you hear something as proper does not necessarily mean that it's white. So we hear a lot of that.
So in order to not, I guess, assimilate or assimilate with their friends, it's actually acting the opposite of how they were probably raised at home.
Right. And to be accepted, because you don't want to be ridiculed, talk about. And the biggest fear of teens is that peer pressure. They may know what's right to do, but it's so much peer pressure to go the other way just to show that you're cool, you're black, you're down with us, and they rather go the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. And so what made you feel that you needed to write this book? What manners were you taught at home?
Well, in my home, it was by the golden belt.
Okay, the golden belt. I love that, right?
No questions asked. You do what I say.
Okay.
With no explanation, and a lot of times you can't figure it out. So you either do it or there's going to be punishment, so you would do it. So we were expected not to curse in the home. As a matter of fact, you couldn't even say the word lie. You couldn't say so-and-so told a lie. Say what? You better watch your mouth, coming from my grandmother and my father and mother, so I was raised in a very strict household with that, and we weren't that, I could say, church going. My mother did, but, just regular, where we went to church and everything. So that was instilled until I got around my friends, then we felt a little bit comfortable. But even in public, it was like, you just didn't act out in public because it got back to your house.
Right.
Somebody was going to tell, or somebody saw you. But now that's totally different. You can act out in the street now, and that parent will say you're lying. Not my boy.
Right. We're not unified. Yeah. And
right.
So
take up for them. So yeah, we were watched by the village. That was more prevalent back in the day. So that was instilled in me. But again, I felt that I had to go back to basics, and the reason I wrote the book is because I researched to find a book on dress attire, etiquette, manners, and I couldn't find anything for anyone under 25, 21. Everything was either written for man or it wasn't written by us. And Toni Morrison said, if you can't find your book, then you need to write it. So that was a little scary because I didn't go to school for journalism, and I didn't feel that that I could write something and maybe ridiculed for how I wrote the book or what, and I went through a lot of anxiety over that.
Right. Yeah. I can understand that. Yeah. So have you ever worked with like a mixed group of boys? And have you found that it's more of a generational thing that kids don't have manners, or have you just strictly worked with young Black men?
There were a couple of classes that I had Latino young boys in there, and only a couple of schools would have any white students,
Okay.
So not that many.
Gotcha.
But the schools I targeted was for that specific reason,
I see.
For majority Black, to get to them.
Gotcha. Okay.
because I wrote it in a Black voice and Black circumstances and situations. Even though anyone can understand it and say, yeah, that happened to me. But there are books that aren't written from our point of view, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I wanted to write it.
Right. So before we, since we're talking about, what would you say are kind of the 5 basic manners or parts of etiquette that most young men don't know or get wrong?
5. Well,
3 to 5. It doesn't have to be.
3 to 5.
3 to 5. Yeah.
Well, it's just the basics of gratitude. You know, they've lost the understanding of showing gratitude for something. You know, they feel, I shouldn't say they, meaning everyone, but in a lot of circumstances, unless you really point it out, they think that that's for them and that's okay. And they don't have to say anything. I deserve this. You're giving me this gift, you know, and they take it. And sometimes I'll get a couple of thank yous and I'll point it out. And then everybody will come back. Oh, thank you, Mr. Wingo. Thank you. You know, so it's like they have to be reminded, but it's not automatic.
Right. Okay.
You know, then I do point out to the young men when it is automatic and something is given, they say thank you. I say I appreciate that, you know, and the other class members will hear that, and that really emphasizes that they need to try that themselves.
Okay.
You know, or if they were given something, I said, well, did you thank that teacher? They said, no, she knows I appreciate. I said, no, did you thank the teacher for doing what she did? You know, she went out of her way. She didn't have to do that. You know, so they have to be reminded because they're not reminded from the circumstances that they're in.
Gotcha. Okay. That's one.
Okay, that's one.
That's one.
Yeah. Well, different things will pop up. Even though this is not necessarily manners, but one etiquette was I usually bring in a suit and a tuxedo, a shoe shine kit, and a pair of shoes, leather shoes, and explaining what each one is, when you wear it, and how you wear it, and how it's worn. So a lot of them haven't seen a tuxedo, and I explain the different circumstances that you wear a tuxedo. And then they definitely have never seen a shoe shine kit. You know, they
right.
have the shoe shine kit box, and they say, well, what's this? And I said, well, that's a brush. And one young man immediately went to brush his hair. And I said, no. That's for shoes. That's for getting off dirt. So I showed them how shoes are shined, you know, cleaning the dirt off.
Yeah.
Buffing the shoe, popping the rag. And they just, I mean, they start cracking up laughing like, what? You know, let me try it. Let me do it. So it's just certain things they haven't been exposed to, but it's no fault of their own because now shoes are made really just sneakers to wear 24/7, you know?
Well, shoes are so expendable. I mean, back then, because I remember now, just you saying that. I remember when my dad used to when he used to shine his shoes, and I think because you know, you had to make sure they lasted long,
right?
So
now,
in order to do that, you know, the shoes are so expendable now, and so it's like
right.
if they're worn, just get a new pair,
right? Because it's all one piece.
Yeah,
you know, there's no heel attached, there's no sole attached, you know, and you used to replace those. You used to shine your shoes. They were made of leather. Now shoes aren't made of leather. You know, they're synthetic.
Yeah.
You know, so there's no need for polish. And the styles are changing where sneakers are worn even with suits.
Right. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I know there was one that my wife had mentioned, one to make sure that our boys knew, was that when a woman walks into the room, make sure you stand up.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And we go through that process of how to treat a guest at dinner or at a restaurant, and we walk them through it. You pulling chairs out, you help her sit down. The conversation that you have in restaurants, putting your
Mm.
phone away, complimenting the young lady on her attire and asking how her day was, and having those kind of conversations. They get very nervous because they don't know, and they start talking about other things,
Mm. Hmm.
so, not to say that that's manners, but after practice, you learn to do that. So, a lot of them haven't been to a restaurant other than maybe TGIF, Olive Garden, you know, um, chain restaurants like that.
Right. Right.
So, after some of the courses that I do, especially if they decide to do the etiquette piece, after 10 weeks, then I take them to a restaurant for lunch, and
Okay.
we practice everything that we've learned in those 1 or 2 sessions,
Oh,
so
nice.
they try to wear the best dress that they have at the house, whether it's just shirt and slacks or whether it's a suit or whether it's shirt and sweater, you know
Okay.
and who is a maitre d', how do we treat the maitre d', how do we treat the wait service, how tips came into being, and explaining all of that, so that when they do go out into the world, whether it's for interviews, whether it's um, for a job, for colleges, scholarships, they have to know that things have to change in that presence, you know, and that is not the time to wear the the drooping slacks or the big bubble
Right.
coat.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a time and place. So to name the top five, I'll just say all of the above. You know,
Okay.
all
Well,
of
I think we got three good ones. And with that, do you have a story that you could tell of someone that was just completely, I guess, clueless or just lost when it came to that sort of thing and having manners, but then went through your program and you saw immediate change in their demeanor or behavior or even their confidence?
Oh, I see it all the time by the end of the program, especially
Okay.
if school buys into the complete program, because there's different prices. But if they buy into the complete program, then that means they'll get the etiquette piece, which talks about dress, which talks about the restaurant, and it also talks about table setting, which flatware you're going to use, which one is for the salad, how do you cut um, your food at the table, two styles of eating. So some people will say, well, our boys, they don't need to learn that. They need to be learning how to survive, how to get into college. Well, that's true. But if they're exposed early, then they're more comfortable when those situations do come up, you know, because after we leave the restaurant, they're really all smiles because they see that they did a good job. And I
Mm.
know they'll talk about it when they go back to their home or when they go out on their own as a young man and take someone out.
Right.
So,
And do you think the pushback from, and I've assumed this is from parents, is because they don't necessarily know what the rules are, and so
oh yeah,
uh,
I've heard parents tell me that they read my book and they learned something, you know.
okay.
And there's a doctor, well, Dr. McLaurin in Philadelphia. She has a night school program of adults. So usually they will have like sort of a prom after the end of their GED. But after she exposed my book and they read the book, they decided to have a dinner instead to
Mm.
practice those skills. And I'm talking about adults with children.
Okay.
So yes, it can be very, I mean, it builds your confidence, when you know some information and you see that you're successful at it. instead of sitting at a table, man, I don't know which tableware to use. Like, which glass of water do I use? There's one on the right and there's one on the left. Drinking out the wrong glass. So that could be embarrassing.
Right. Absolutely. So how do you feel manners connect with emotional intelligence, especially during moments of conflict or disagreement? Because as we know, especially around that age, fifth grade, the fifth, sixth grade, they really start to get into those conflict situations.
Right. Well, that's all trial and error. We can't expect young people from 11 to 13 to quickly pick up techniques and be perfect at it when we have adults. I'm still trying.
Right.
I'm not perfect, but emotional intelligence is just being able to manage your emotions. If you can manage your emotions and pause for a second for situations and read the room, and then move forward and take action. A lot of times we're quick to strike back, to say something quickly, or say the wrong words and really didn't think it through. So that's the whole point of working with our young people and not really giving up just because they failed once. I read a study once that said from the moment a child is born until they're 18, that you will repeat a task to them over 999,000 times from birth to 18. So why do we get upset when they didn't do something after we told them 5 times? That means we have 999,985 more thousand times to tell them,
Wow, I wish I would have known that. Because I know I stopped well short of that in certain things,
Tell them to turn out the light. Turn out the light. Turn off the light. Turn off the light. Turn off the light.
Right.
Sit them down and tell them why you want them to turn off the light.
Yeah.
That is connected to the electric bill, which is connected to my pay, which is connected to your allowance. Do you still want to get your allowance, or do you want your money going to the electric company?
Yeah, absolutely.
We want to give them these one statement and go, because we're in this fast society. Okay, go to school, be good now. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Go to school, be good. We have to we got to take the time to walk them through it.
Yeah. So let me just step back and kind of put you also in the shoes of the young man that was at the restaurant. So if that would have been you at the restaurant and you saw them, would you have necessarily said anything to them or give them any would you have said anything or give them any words of encouragement or anything like that, or you would have just let them rock?
No, I'm gonna let them rock and I'm gonna enjoy it. Who am I? This guy could have been a budding star. He could be a social media influencer making more money than me. I don't know who. They're not bothering me. They're not yelling. I've complimented young brothers at restaurants on their good behavior as far as what they're doing. I may see a couple come in. I see the young man pull the chair out and he puts his phone away. He's talking to her and, they're laughing. I see the whole thing rolling out. The waiter comes over. He points like, no, ask her first, And a couple of times, the young lady will get up and go to the restroom and I go over and give the brother a dap,
Right. Okay.
I was watching you from the corner, you rocked that. I saw what you did. She starts smiling. Yeah.
Yeah.
And enjoy your dinner, But to go over and correct somebody that they should be doing something else, or dress a certain way. That's not my role. I'm not going to get into it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I just wonder why he felt compelled that he needed to talk about that on a post, because I mean the post did actually go viral, and I mean so much so that my sister sent it to me. So
right,
and I just wonder why. What is it that he felt compelled him to actually?
Yeah, he felt it. It reminded me of my grandmother making a statement because, you know, somebody didn't look the way she thought they should and said something and felt embarrassed, you know. And we do that at times, but, you know, as long as they're not rowdy, you know, and causing a big disturbance, you know, the dress, you know, he chose that restaurant. Maybe he should have chose a black restaurant.
Well, that's probably true too, and it's clearly Ruth Chris didn't have an issue with it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let him in. So,
and I've never been to Ruth Christie, so I don't know what their format is.
It's a steakhouse. I mean, I don't know if you want to call it. It's not top tier steakhouse, but I guess it's the step up from like Olive Garden.
Okay,
all of those things. It is a step up, but it's not like premier, I would say.
Okay,
but I mean, if you're a certain, I guess, demographic, going to Ruth Chris is like top tier for them.
Right. Well, one quick story. I was in London about a month ago. I went to look at an exhibit, and the hotel that I was staying in had young people, and I was looking for another charger because the charger I bought with me, it wasn't charging my computer fast enough. So he said, "Sure, I'll help you." And he turned around to walk away, and he had sagging pants.
Okay.
And I wanted to take a picture so bad, but I didn't want to be caught taking a picture of a youth, you know, from their behind. But I thought how powerful we are as African Americans, setting style, setting culture, language. You know, almost every song that I heard there, 80% of it was American music, American Black music, along with UK's music, which I didn't kind of recognize, but it was still hip hop based or pop based. And I wasn't just in a Black section, you know, this is piped into every restaurant, every hotel, different types. So we are very influential. So the sagging is a style, but it just, for me, it depends on how low you're going to sag and whether you have really clean underwear or designer underwear to show, you know?
Right. That is kind of a style. And I mean, it also depends on where you're going. But I guess for young people, at some point they'll have to step up, or if they're taking a business meeting, or maybe they're going to a college interview, they will need some type of dress. So for maybe anyone that will be listening and they don't have the support, or they haven't gotten, they haven't read your book, what are the basic attire that one should have in their wardrobe if they have to take a meeting or they are going to a restaurant, what have you, they should have?
Well, every man needs a dark suit, a black suit, whether you wear suits or not, or an African outfit that's dark, a plain colored shirt, possibly a tie, and dress shoes, not necessarily sneakers, because personally I feel in certain situations it will call for a suit, and the better prepared you are, the more likelihood you'll be looked at as a better candidate, even if it's just a shirt and tie and slacks. Maybe you can't afford a suit or a jacket and that's all you have, then that's all you really have to go with. As each young person grows or gets older, they will have to start adding to their wardrobe for different events. So you're not going to wear a basketball uniform to play in a football game.
Right.
So you have to have different outfits for different certain situations. It doesn't mean that one outfit is good all the time, but multiple outfits would really help you. So that's just starting out as a young person. Even as a high schooler, I tell them all they need dark pants, white shirt, and at least a sweater or a jacket to go with it, and if your parents can afford it, then you have to find some kind of part-time job to take care of yourself and not really always ask for things to be given to you.
Right. Right. And then you had mentioned African attire. Is that that okay?
Yes, I think every young man or every man should have at least some kind of African attire in their wardrobe.
Okay. And why is that, if I may ask?
Well, if that's our identity, our culture, and to show pride, to be able to wear that for certain occasions, I think it's fitting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Awesome. So with that, on the flip side, what generational habits around communication or masculinity need to be unlearned?
Need to be unlearned. Anything that's negative.
Okay.
Be unlearned. I mean, how we speak to one another, how we speak to our parents,
Mm-hmm.
showing respect, how you speak to your younger siblings, if you're to be looked up to and to be the role model, you have to show that. And what better place to learn that than in our own family? We have families that don't get along and don't speak well to each other.
Okay. And so when you talk about speaking to your siblings, what do you mean exactly? You mean as far as,
well, I mean,
the harshness of tone or just slang? Yeah.
Yes, the harshness of tone, giving them correct information. If you're the older brother or older sister, you need to set a tone for those younger siblings, because they are going to follow you. They are going to emulate what you do, imitate, and they're going to look up to you. And that's an honor that they should not just brush aside lightly. And I speak to all my young men, where they stand in their family tree. Are you the youngest, the middle, the oldest?
Mm-hmm.
Get a perception of how they're being treated and how they treat others. And it starts from there. So you can always practice at home. It might be a little fearful of giving props to somebody outside your family, because they immediately say, "Ooh, you like him," and then that starts a whole new conversation. But yeah, you start with family first, learning how to treat one another, and then move on to friends.
Okay, move on to friends. And so what about, and I think you did mention some of it when you saw the young man at the restaurant when he was on a date. Do you feel that the way we talk to each other in relationships, we need some correction there? Or what have you seen, when you're out and about?
Yes. When I'm working with these young men, especially with 8th graders, oh man, you talking about braggarts. They will say they got 5 girlfriends. They rule their whole street. Everybody wants them. And then we go to dinner. And in the beginning, I used to pair one young lady with 3 guys at a table. And the girl will be somewhere around the 9th or 10th grade. So now you have
okay.
9th and 10th grade girls sitting with 3 8th grade boys. Everybody shuts up. They don't know what to say. They are intimidated. And I go like, "Yo, Jeremy, I thought you was the king, the street. Like, sounds a little quiet over at this table, So they understand, okay, I'm not as bad as I said I was, but I give them tips on how to start a conversation. That it's not always trying to be slick. That's things that guys will tell you on the street. And if they're really pressed with a nice looking young girl that has her head together, that can run circles around them, they tend to pass, because
Mm-hmm.
compete, they didn't learn the basics, just being nice. They think they have to say something that's smart or slick, or other guys would laugh at if they said it.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think therein lies the crux of the issue, because I think a lot of the men out there are intimidated because the young women have really passed them by, or they have a lot more knowledge or more confidence, and so therefore the guys are just not even making that attempt or trying to get better.
Right, they give up. You'll find a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are some young men, they get to be a senior and they decline to go to their prom.
Wow.
It's several reasons. One, they may or may not have the money, but sometimes that doesn't stop you. But it's the confidence. Number one, I really don't have a date, and I've been bragging about me having all these ladies, but I can't get one to come with me. And two, I've never worn a tux before. I don't know how to get a tux, or I can't drive. I'm gonna have to ride with my partner. And they just say, forget it. I'm not going. It's whack. Who wants to go to that anyway? And they just give up. So
wow.
I've seen a lot of that in seniors. All the way, they get all the way to senior. I mean, they're last year in school, but they find out that they're not as good as they've been bragging about.
Okay. Wow, that is well, this has been very enlightening and insightful. I'm glad you came on today. If someone wanted to buy your book, where would they go to get it? I guess in YouTube, or not YouTube, Amazon?
Well, they can go to Amazon. But if they want a signed copy, they can email me at Wingo Jam. That's WINGOJAM, all one word, at sbcglobal.net. And I can personally sign it, and they will get an ink pen and a bookmarker.
Oh, that's awesome. And I'll be sure to put that in the show notes when I turn into a podcast as well. So this has been great. I always reserve this question as a surprise, the final question, because I don't want you to think too hard. I just want it to be more organic. But I mean, we do a lot of stuff for our families and just our communities and things of that nature. We don't always think about ourselves and how we're feeling. So my question is, as we close, is how are you feeling right now as a Black man?
Oh, it's wonderful to be Black.
Okay. Oh, you were ready. All right. Fantastic.
I break out in a smile.
Well, that's great. And why wonderful for you?
For me, because everybody wants to be us. They follow us. They emulate us. They try. They try to beat us. They can't keep us down, and we're still here. And I'm proud to be Black, and it puts a smile on my face.
Great. Yeah, I can see that. That's fantastic.
Even when I walk in the room and I'm the only one, I go like, yeah, I like this.
That's great. Well, James or Mr. Wingo, thank you for being on today. I really appreciated it. And I love the fact that I loved your answer, by the way, to the TikTok video, because I'm sure most folks were up in arms about it. And I know in certain instances we do stuff for a reaction and clicks and things of that nature, but I really loved your answer more. I think that's the way we need to act more often.
Yeah, there's too much stuff going on right now. to be worried about two brothers in bubble coats at a restaurant. Obviously, they got the money to pay for their dinner, so be happy.
Yeah, right? And thank you for being here.
All right, I appreciate you, Brother Dent. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
Black Men Speak was written, produced, and edited by me, Keith Dent. You can find previous episodes wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If this is your first time discovering the show, or you're a Black Men Speak podcast fan, make sure you like and subscribe. We always like to end the show with a quote. And this one comes from world-renowned musician and the new men's creative director at Louis Vuitton, Pharrell Williams. If someone asks me what inspires me, I always say that which is missing, because I don't want to copy everything that's already happening. I feel like when you copy, you blend in, and when you blend in, you get lost. This is Keith Dent from the Black Men Speak podcast. Peace.